Hey everybody, Daniel with Arcana Brewing here again. Today I just wanted to talk to you guys a little bit about barrel stoppers, because we recently started doing a barrel program and there wasn't a whole lot of information out online about how to properly measure them and where to source them and that sort of thing. So just to start at the basic one, anyone who's homebrewed will recognize this guy here. It's a solid stopper. Some of them will have the center drilled out there so you can fit an airlock on it. And these will fit your standard glass carboys. Work pretty good, but not for barrels. This is another one that you might see in a homebrew shop. It's a breather bung, so it's got this little flapper here, little vent holes that run down here, so that when this is sitting in maybe a small size, say 20 liter or 10 liter barrel, or maybe one of the bigger poly fermenters, you can have this on the top and you'll have gradual off-gassing, which is good for something like a mead or maybe a barley wine that's going to age a long time. But it's not quite big enough for most of your wooden barrels like these over here. The reason for that is that this little lip that's right here, you guys can see that. So this lip would be perfect, but it drops in too much. And so this will actually sink down and just barely float on the top of the bore into the barrel. So for that reason, anyone that's doing bigger barrels needs to get more properly sized bung. These ones here are some older breather bungs that came with the barrels originally. Use this sort of T configuration on the bottom here, and the top of it sits here, so that in theory you can use these as a solid bung or a breather bung. Right now it's in a breather mode because you can see it moves, but you can make it a solid bung by pressing that all the way down and it forms a pretty good seal on there. You can tell from the discoloration that they don't last forever. They do degrade just like any other plastic material and will periodically have to be replaced or maybe reconditioned, but I think it's probably safer just to buy a new one. These are good for beer, especially because you're going to have some of that continued fermentation, and any dissolved CO2 when you run it into a barrel is going to break suspension and give you some foaming. So it's always good to have a vented bung on there so you don't have an explosion. If you're doing something like wine or still cider or a mead, these solid bungs work great. This is a solid one with a bored out portion in the middle. I don't know if that just makes it lighter or if it's supposed to serve some purpose. This is another one that came with the barrels themselves. And a couple other different styles of solid stoppers. This one has a big sort of mushroom on it, so it makes it a little easier to pull out of the barrel after it's been sitting in there. You want to hammer them in pretty solid so you don't have any fruit flies trying to sneak in. You want to minimize gas exchange through the top opening. But again, on these two you can see how they do pick up some discoloration and abrasions that come from the oak on the barrels. So those all came with the barrels when we bought them. They work fairly well for what they are, but since we're going to be doing some in-barrel continued fermentation as well as sours, we wanted to allow for as clean a start as we could, as well as good breathability. So what we did for that was we actually contacted Alasco, and we ordered some of these Dualco bungs. Similar to some of the other ones, you can tell that it is well, it's got the little mushroom top to make it easier to pull. It's got a good taper on there. It's plenty wide enough to properly fill the bore into the barrel. It sits right about there, so it gives us a little bit of capacity in case we have slightly smaller or slightly larger drill outs. This is what the stopper inside of the bung looks like, separated out. And this is the completed assembly. So you can get a little bit better lighting on there. Yep, so that's what it looks like. And similar to the other ones, when it is in venting mode, you can see that this moves a little bit, and so it'll just periodically burp like that once it gets enough pressure behind it. And then once you're done with fermentation, if you just want to leave it stored in there a little bit, push it down a little bit further, just like the other ones up there, and you get a good solid seal. And to show you what they look like in the barrels real quick here. There we go. And the side view, so you can see how far that one's tapped in there. Pretty good fit. And just for hilarity, if you really absolutely have to, you can jury rig some really big homebrew stoppers. So we got that guy fitted in there with an airlock. Not the best way to do it, not a perfect seal, and you have to keep refilling it with whatever material you use for the water lock, like we need to here. But you know, in a pinch you can make it work with enough duct tape. So hey, that's it for video today. Hope you guys liked it, and thanks.